basically letting the state know in the period between January 1st, 2018 and December 31st, 2018 that we spent the minimum amount that was required for the HAVA agreement that we are in at this moment for the previous voting system purchase, and I will give that to you, sir, if you don't mind getting the signatures, and that will be something that you will need to sign.
Okay, seek a motion to approve the HAVA.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, so moved.
Thank you. Now, board.
All right, now the Board of Elections will come to order to address additional issues.
Okay. So the first board issue that I have would be to ask permission and approval for the certification of the 2019 political parties, and that would be the Democratic and Republican Party, and I have that also for you, Jeannie, if you don't mind getting those signatures for me, and ask approve for that.
Also move to certify Democrat and Republican parties within Lebanon County.
I'll second the motion.
All right, I have a motion and a second to adopt or to approve the two political parties as listed. Is there any discussion or comments? All those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's all. No, that's good. Okay, the last order of business would be for the, my recommendation for the new election system that was mandated to have a paper-based voting system in place for under contract by the end of 2019. I am recommending that we select the vendor ES&S, and the system that I am recommending would be what I consider a hybrid system. And to explain that, that basically means it would be a pre-printed paper ballot system where we would have the voter have an option or choice at the precinct to either have a paper ballot, but we also would have the ability for them to also vote with a ballot marking device if they so choose. I have outlined and I've given you all a handout of how that hybrid system would set up. If you want me to go through it specifically, I can. Otherwise, I have presented that, and that is what I'm asking and recommending for you to approve with an implementation date of the election in November.
And these, this hybrid would be, you know, certified and
Yes,
approved at the
ES&S
state
is,
level?
yes, they are certified and they are something we can purchase now.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the mix?
Sure, absolutely. So what we did is, so in this system, the tabulation is done by a precinct scanner. So you can either put the pre-printed paper ballot through the scanner to be counted, or if you use a ballot marking device, there is a paper that goes in through that ballot marking device and then comes back out with your selections on it, and then that would be counted through the scanner. So everything, all of the tabulation is done through a scanner. The mix that we're talking about, obviously we would have paper ballots at every location, so if an individual chooses to vote on a paper ballot, they'll be able to do that. The mix that we use is basically what we did is we looked at what the machine counts are now currently at every precinct with the Ivotronics we have now. And any precinct that had 4 or less Ivotronics would get 1 ballot marking device. Any precinct that had 5 or 6 Ivotronics now would get 2. And anybody that had 7 or more, which 7 is going to be the maximum now with the redistricting if that goes through, would have 3. So that would give us a total of 92 ballot marking devices in the field, and then I would have 6 for our rovers that would be able to replace anything or add if needed, and then 2 that we could use for demo purposes, so that would be 100 ballot marking devices that we would purchase.
And the remainder would be the, those would be the ballot marking devices, and then the remaining method would be the marking of the paper ballot.
Correct.
And I think it's important to mention that these ballot marking devices also serve as the ADA compliant
Absolutely.
Machine, which every precinct is required to have. So
Yes.
we would have been, originally would have been purchasing one of these for each precinct.
Correct.
Regardless
Yes.
of the hybrid mix. The
That was-
hybrid
that was
just
the
adds a few more.
clarification I wanted to make. When you said if there are 4, there'd be 1,
Yes.
that 1 would also be, it's
Yes.
not an additional one, it's that was the ADA
Correct.
required one.
we would have been required to have one at every precinct for ADA
It's not
purposes
an issue.
anyway.
Okay.
Commissioner Litz, yes.
Yes. I have 3 points.
Okay.
And the first one is that Clear Ballot could not provide a hybrid system for us. Is that correct? There was something not approved.
Well, first of all, Clear Ballot has not been certified, but in talks with them, yes, their ballot marking device is strictly, the way they have it set up is used for those that need it for ADA purposes. They don't design their product to be able to be used by anyone as a ballot marking device. It's a slower process. You have to have a separate printer. It actually prints out a complete ballot, and so in theory you could use it that way, but it would not be an efficient way to use it. It's not made for that purpose, as opposed to what the vendor I'm recommending. They have theirs is ADA, but it's also something that they also market and can be used efficiently as a ballot marking device for anyone to use.
Thank you. I think that's an important thing for people to be able to hear who were Clear Ballot fans, that they're not certified
Correct.
and it's not set up to do what we're proposing to have done. Number 2 is that with the hybrid system, anybody who really loves voting on those machines can still vote on the machines. The difference is it will print the ballot for you to review and then drop it into the box behind it, as was done at the demonstration. And it also satisfies those people who are demanding to be able to use their hand to fill in the ballot.
Absolutely.
And just run it through the scanner. I think that puts it in terms that maybe the average person can understand, having not been at all these seminars, to know what you're talking about when you say ballot marking device. That's
Absolutely.
the machine similar to what they use now.
Yes. Yeah, so and one of the things that I do think that's important to note is that we did listen to those that filled out the surveys at the demos that we did, because I will tell you I was very much a paper ballot person to begin with, and one of the things that we did hear from the individuals that came to the demo is they do like the ballot marking devices or the machines that would help them cast their vote. So that's something that I felt that was important as we looked at this, and why I'm here with this compromise in a way of the ballot marking devices to allow those that are comfortable with the machine. But now with these new machines, they have a paper trail, a voter verified paper trail that you do put that piece of paper in it. The thing to make sure that you remember though is that machine does not now count your vote. All it does is mark exactly how and what you're putting on the machine. You're still going to have to walk over and put it in a scanner for it to be counted.
Okay, so that's the difference between what happened over there. We'll still be scanning it by hand then.
It'll be scanned through an optical scanner that will be at the precinct. That's
Okay.
correct, into a ballot box.
In other words, every voter will have in their hand their ballot between the time it's either marked by hand or marked by the device, and where they take it to the scanner and personally.
So there will be one
But-
final count, then we will not be having to add it from 2 different.
No.
Okay.
Be one. Yeah. The only time that would be changing would be is if we find as we go into this system that we at certain precincts we need to have more than one scanner.
Okay.
And the reason why I want to be purchased more than just the 60 precincts, so that we have the ability to add a scanner later, but that there is a way for those numbers to be included together. So
Okay.
it's not like it's going to be ever separate. We're going to be able to get those
Okay.
together.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that clarification. And then my third point is that by doing this, we're also limiting the cost of printing, because we are getting an approval through the state. It's verbal at this point, but they've met all their other promises in writing. And so the third point would be that we have the ability to do printing on demand versus having to pre-print huge amounts of ballots at a minimum for precincts where a lot of people don't turn out to begin with, and it's a lot of money and storage and lifting and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. So as you alluded to, we did talk to the Department of State, and with the mix of having ballot marking devices and I'm asking for ballot on demand to be purchased, we'll be able to reduce the number of pre-printed ballots that we'll have to send to the precincts, and we'll have the ability, if we ever do run low on a pre-printed ballot, we'll be able to print it here at the central office and have our rovers run them out to the precincts if we ever need to do that. But obviously, the voter will have the choice to, like as Jamie said, to be able to print or to actually have a paper ballot they fill out, or use a machine that would help them mark that ballot as well. Yep. And just kind of on your point, and I think it's important to say this, is that I very much plan to do outreach, public outreach, scheduled demos, if this is approved, to make sure the public completely understands before we ever use it, this is the system that's going to be in place. And so, maybe even doing that at the Expo Center, maybe going to different places in the county, obviously
Fairs,
having it set
whatever.
up here so that we do as much public awareness as absolutely possible so that anybody that wants to see this before they actually walk into a precinct when it's implemented will absolutely be able to see that.
A booth at the 4-H fair and one at the Senior Expo, I think would be great, because there's lots of people come to both of those.
And just for the record, did you have a question?
No, go ahead.
Would just general comment on the overall cost now and in relationship to what we could have spent or whatever, just to let folks know that we're making the best decision not only for the equipment but also guarding the taxpayers' money as well.
Absolutely.
Stands the price.
Yeah, we had budgeted, I believe it's $1.7 million for this capital project. Roughly, and this is, I haven't got to, the final figures, we'll get that as we try to go into a contract negotiations, but roughly $711,000 for the system that I'm recommending. And then what I did also for you is just some of the things that I believe will need to be purchased going to this system, since it's a little bit different than what we have now, which would include voting booths and ballot bags and boxes, and training that I believe that will need to be done, mandatory training for all of our poll workers just to learn the system. This would be outside of the training I do before each election. So I included that as well, which comes to a little bit less than $100,000 on additional things that I think that needs to be purchased. So you're looking somewhere about $820,000 investment in this type of system, but it's far less than the $1.7 million that we had originally looked at as a number in the capital.
And remember, there is some state reimbursement coming at this point, that may increase. I know there's some bills pending to increase that, there's some proposals. If, as he mentioned, we're at about, I think $711,000 for machines, then if you add the warranty,
Yes.
and maintenance and so on into that, it comes to $768, plus then the add-ons of, privacy dividers and ballot boxes and so on. We're at about $860,000. Is it $113,000 at this point the state is, that's passing through to us?
Oh, $141,000 is what we will get from that we
That's
know.
federal money.
That is the federal and the slight state match that they had to. So we know we're getting the $141,000.
Okay.
And then the governor's
50%
budget,
is
there
on
is.
top of that.
Well, yeah, the governor has proposed that nothing has been obviously passed, that, the states receive, they're hoping for at least 50% funding. Obviously, that'll have to go through that process, but it is in the governor's budget.
Pardon me?
Take the under on that.
Yeah.
So as you sit here today, I think if you back out that state reimbursement plus everything that Michael's put in front of you, you're at a net cost right now of about $720,000, which is $1 million less than you budgeted based on information we had, back then. So, and that
You're
can
welcome.
only get better. And that's still pending negotiations. I mean,
Absolutely.
these numbers can get better as more counties make their decisions. The pricing may improve.
One of the things that I have talked to the vendor just a little bit, even yesterday, after Jamie and I talked, was that one of the things that in our final proposal that I'm working on is their best number they can give us, plus adding the fact that if we do go with them, that they will dispose of our equipment that we have now. So it's kind of like a buyback in a way, because they're giving us the best price, knowing that we're going with them, but then also they will dispose of the 270 plus Cybertronics and stands that we have now in our warehouse, because obviously those will need to be moved out for anything new coming in. So that's something we want to keep in
The
mind.
stands are not adaptable to the
No.
current machines.
No. And honestly, they are very heavy and very not user-friendly.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of
All right.
those. The polling booths that I have priced, they're really neat and slick and have lights, and I think they'll be really nice for our voters.
And the rollout of this, assuming we approve it today, what do you see the first?
So
time?
obviously we'll go into contract negotiations. So there's a couple different ways that can pursue. Obviously we can have them work with our solicitor on a contract, and, you know, have that ironed out and I get the final approval on that. Or we can wait for co-stars. I can tell you co-star pricing isn't as good as what we're gonna get if we negotiate directly with them, and with the fact that there's other vendors now, or other counties also, you know, buying at the same time. My recommendation would be that we start right away on getting things down in writing and look at a contract and get signatures on that once everybody agrees and we have all the legal
I'm
people
sorry,
look at
maybe you
it.
misunderstood my question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
When do you see this being first implemented in the first election that these would be used?
Oh, November. So this
Just
coming.
so the public is aware that
Yes,
timeframe
absolutely.
is-
So the November election. So in the primary we'd be using the iVotronics one last time, and then we would go through implementation this summer, and you know, have that implemented and ready for November. Yeah, I would like one election before we get to a presidential year.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
I do have one thing I think we probably do need to make a decision on besides maybe. Should I wait? I don't know. The warranty part. I mean, should I get the vote first on that, or ask them if they want to?
Yeah, let's get the majors out of the
Okay.
way. So you need action today on a vendor, a system, which you can recite which
Sure.
these systems are. Approving, and at this point it can be the approximate cost
Expenditure.
of the whole package, pending some price negotiation, and also cover then the implementation of the November rollout. And as long as you encapsulate all of that into your action as an election board, I think you've met the obligation then that the election board was the one that made this decision, so that if you are substituted on the election board by the court, then this has been done.
This is done. Yes.
So vendor, system, approximate cost, and implementation. You wanna recite those, maybe make it a little easier?
Sure. So vendor would be ES&S, election systems and software, and the system would be I call it which is a hybrid system. So it would be a combination of pre-printed paper ballots and ballot marking devices, and the implementation for the November 2019 election.
And the approximate cost?
Oh, approximate cost, excuse me. So I have roughly $711,000 for the purchase of the actual system, plus then the warranty cost of somewhere around $41,000 annually. Don't include the.
Yeah, I would include this.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then also there is
Get
the
a
option of an extended warranty, which basically means they would come here and do any of the maintenance that we would need, repairs here, and they would also come every 2 years to do basically maintenance on these machines. That cost would be roughly about $16,500 a
That's
year.
part of your recommendation?
And that, I do believe that is the best way to do that. That's what we have now. We'll just kind of move it back a little bit from yearly to every 2 years, because I don't think we probably need something yearly with new equipment, but I do believe it would be our best interest to have someone come in and look at that every 2 years. And then if you don't buy the extended, you basically have to pay to send it out if something breaks, and then they would fix it in Omaha and then send it back to us. So you would have that time delay, which would be fine. It's just a little nicety if we can have it along with the maintenance itself. They would come here. We could ask questions while they're here, get them fixed.
I'd like to comment.
Okay, do you want a motion before we discuss any further?
Yeah, let's get the motion on the floor now at this point.
I'll move to approve what Mike has outlined for us.
I'll second the motion, but I do have several comments. I've been trying to get your attention for a little while, so I apologize for not succeeding. But first of all, there's a question from someone watching live, a constituent, and they are asking, and I know the answer, but if you can succinctly answer, will this eliminate poll workers?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay.
No, the jobs of poll workers will change, hence the reason why I'm asking for the mandatory training to learn the system, because they'll have to learn the system first before we even can put in new procedures for them, exactly how they would do that. But no, we will still absolutely want, and we'll encourage anybody that wants to be a poll worker to please contact my office.
Okay. And then the second one is I would like to support you in your effort to negotiate directly with the companies. CCAPS did encourage at the board meetings that even if CoStars comes out with the price, don't stop there. Continue to negotiate by pooling with other counties to get a better price, by negotiating directly with the companies. You're doing the right thing on that. And number three, I just want to say thank you for all of your efforts and time. Not only have you been working on this voting machine issue, but you have been working on the new precincts where we had too large because there was lines at the polls in presidential elections. And you have just taken on a humongous task and also worked with our state senator, Mike Fulmer, in order to bring reform to the voting system, which is sorely needed. There is a lot of antiquated things. Election law hasn't been looked at for like 70 years.
Right.
And you appeared in Harrisburg, so you have been in the forefront. You have the respect of Kathy Bookvar, the Department of State, and I just think you need to know how proud we are that you are representing Lebanon County and have done the stellar job, the yeoman's job that you have taken on this year. It's way above and beyond what we ever anticipated, having had this mandate come down upon us. Thank you.
No, well, thank you. I appreciate that, and my pleasure.
So basically, and that's why I didn't pay any attention to Commissioner Litz when she wanted my attention, because she got to say everything that I intended to say. I would just like to say, as serving as chair of the Board of Elections, I have worked closely with Michael, and it's a difficult position to be in when little things arise in the polling places and so on. You're always under the gun, Michael, and I think you've, as Commissioner Litz said, you've represented us well. You've worked closely with us, and you worked through this process, involved the community, and made it possible, I think, for us to make the wise decision that we're making. So I personally want to thank you. And Commissioner Phillips, do you want to top that off?
Whatever's left, I'll grab, yes. But I would like to thank you, Bill, for working with Michael so diligently and coming to this conclusion. And also I think the hybrid solution was a good one because, with the different generations that we deal with, I think this will help address all those kind of concerns and interests. And I also think it'll add another layer of credibility to, the whole process.
Absolutely.
So I think we've done, a good process here, and I thank you for all that, and Bill, thank you for chairing.
And it's nice when things turn out well.
And under budget.
Yeah, and under budget too, so, yeah.
Absolutely.
So with that said, I'll call all those in favor of the motion that's on the floor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered.
Okay, Jamie, should I have them vote on the extra, because I didn't go over that in that proposal, or is that something?
I treated it as all encompassing. I mean, that
You
was the
had-
whole recommendation.
You mentioned
Okay.
the warranty work and
Okay,
on.
so my last thing that I would like to just kind of get a feel of what the board's feeling on this. Obviously, at the beginning, we talked a little bit about electronic poll books. I am not making a recommendation for any purchase of electronic poll books at this time. And the reason for that is because I don't feel that we, or me specifically, but even the board has had the opportunity to research different vendors, their products, what they offer, security. There's a whole set of different things I believe that need to be addressed when we talk about electronic poll books, and if that's the way that we want to go. Basically what I'm asking for the board's vote today is just, is that something that we would still like to pursue? I'm more than happy to spear that and to bring vendors in that are certified, talk to them about the safety of that method. I can tell you we did get some positive reviews from the public at the demo about electronic poll books. So there's not something I'm asking for it to be, you know, a certain date or a vendor or a selection, but just is it something that if the board believes that I should pursue, or should I just kind of leave that, you know, stay at this point?
Michael, do you have any feedback? The public is one thing, but how about the poll workers?
Absolutely love them.
Okay, that was easy.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you'd like a motion, you know, we can, what?
I would like to comment first.
Well, I never,
Okay.
I never prevent you from commenting, Commissioner, do I? Yeah, absolutely. You know, you certainly should be able to comment. So go ahead.
Thank you. Michael, you know, I had an article that recommended against the poll books. And after viewing them at the expo and other places, and also experiencing things with iPhones and iPads, which is essentially what these are, in my humble opinion, this is the vulnerability, the weak spot in our voting systems if we get these, because they contain personal information of all of our voters in Lebanon County. If you have an iPhone, you can do airdrops, and people can hack into your things using hotspots and whatever. You are not safe with your computer. When it's turned on, they can hack in. And for this reason, I highly recommend going after these poll books. I think that it would be a mistake. I completely agree with the proposal that we went through today on the voting machines, but I have to draw the line for myself when it comes to these poll books. We're trying to improve so we don't have voter fraud. This would be the weak spot that would allow voter fraud. I just, and also personal identity theft. I just can't support that.
All right. Certainly appreciate your feelings and your comments on that. Actually, we already have the greatest vulnerability for voter fraud, and that is that we do not require personal ID for people to vote. And hopefully someday we'll be courageous enough to address that at a state level or a national level. On the other hand, I think that we do not want to, at this point in time, curtail at least the possibility of looking at electronic poll books and getting good demonstrations and representations and a professional view on vulnerability and those kinds of things. So if I can get a motion to just move forward and let Michael at least bring folks in to demonstrate these and so on, I would take that.
Additional study. I'll so move.
Do I have a second?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, I'm willing to make the second, so a motion and a second on the floor to at least allow Michael to move forward with exploring. So
Transparency.
all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes, Michael, 2-1.
All right, well, thank you very much for all of you and for your support of my office and in this process. I know it's not easy, a lot of information, a lot of emails back and forth, so I just wanted to say thank you for making this process, even though it was long, much easier, much smoother than it has been in a lot of other counties. And, you know, and I don't mean to keep holding your time, but I also think it's very important the public understands that one of the reasons why this process was smooth for our county was because of the fine job that you have done as commissioners to put us in a financial situation where we were just not dependent on an outside source to come in here and bail us out when we need this. You have all three done an excellent job of putting us in a place where I never had to worry. Yes, money is an issue, and yes, we need to make sure that we're doing our due diligence, but it wasn't in a place where we could not do anything because this county was not financially able to do anything. So thank you for that, for the many years of your hard work in getting this county in the financial situation that we're in. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'd just like to address the identity that you talked about.
Voter suppression.
And first of all, we have 3 forms of required identity when someone walks into the polls. Some are obvious. One is facial recognition, one is voice recognition, and the other is a signature. I have been a notary public for close to 50 years. The time I started and the law today remain the same. If I can personally verify someone, you do not need additional ID. That is the law. And to change it, when you have something that you're producing, a computer can replicate that. And with all of that being said, I think we have the most dependable and reliable forms of ID possible, things that people can't duplicate, things that people can't steal from you. And I'm very happy with the forms of ID that we are currently using.
It's very scientific as well, I might add. You're relying on poll workers to recognize literally for thousands of people by facial recognition.
People in their neighborhood who they see at the post office, the bank, the grocery store, on the street raking leaves. These are their friends and neighbors.
All right, we're finished with that discussion.
Would you like to, motion to adjourn?
I would like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Okay,
We're adjourned. Thank you.
good, thank you.